Hello everyone, welcome to Close Reading Poetry. I'm Adam Walker, and in this video I want to show you a clip of me talking about and introducing Emerson's great essay, Nature. And I'm going to be reading a paragraph. It's the first time I've close read prose on this channel, and so we'll be looking at Emerson's prose, just the first paragraph of his first essay, Nature. Let me tell you a little bit about where this clip comes from. I haven't been doing too many videos on YouTube this fall because I'm teaching at Harvard College in person a lot this semester, but I am leading a book club, and I'm not sure if people on YouTube know I'm doing this, but it's available through Patreon. And let me show you what I'm doing with it. This is an introduction mainly to American Renaissance literature. Last spring, during the winter, we spent January to May reading English literature from Old English all the way up to postmodern poetry. Now I want to focus on American literature, and this reading group, this book club, focuses on the great works of the American Renaissance, which was a prolific period of artistic production during the 1830s to 1860s or 70s. You're reading the great works here. So here's the syllabus, which you can actually access in the description below. There's a link to that. There's also a link to the Patreon if you want to sign up. I've capped the number of people who can join because I do want to keep these manageable, the size low. So if you're interested in joining, you can join in any time. We've just finished part 1, Emerson and Thoreau. So you'll see here below some of the things we've read: Emerson's essays, some of his poetry, which not many people have read, and Thoreau's Waldo. Let me tell you just a little bit about the course. We're reading Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, Frederick Douglass, Emily Dickinson, and Walt Whitman, among others, including Herman Melville, his poetry. Yes, he was a poet. Edgar Allan Poe, and even Thoreau's poetry. Thoreau also wrote poetry. So we're reading a little bit about that. This is mainly discussion-based. So I assign the readings in advance. I throw out a few discussion questions. The group members also throw out discussion questions in the Discord channel, which you get access to when you join the Patreon. And then we discuss. I select from that pool of discussion questions and facilitate a discussion around the prose and the poetry. The way I do it varies. If we're reading a long work, typically I focus it around discussion questions. If it's small bits of poetry, we usually just go through a close reading and collaboratively close read and discuss what we're talking about. And I'll sometimes introduce the content with topical or introductory material. So this is styled a course, but what I'm finding is that as we go through, it's really a book club. But the goals are these. You sign up for this, what you'll get is you'll gain a comprehensive understanding of the development of American poetry. You understand a little bit about the people who were writing and their times. You cultivate a deeper appreciation for beauty and the power and complexity of poetic language. And we're also reading prose, as you know. And since reading is a process of self-discovery, partly, you'll also learn about your own literary taste, and you'll be able to compare notes with other people who are learning about their literary tastes. And my literary taste is changing. I've never read Thoreau more critically than I have in this book club, and it's taught me a lot just learning from the folks who have been participating just wonderfully in this club. Here are the texts that I recommend. These are also found online, so you can find those there if you want hard copies, which I do recommend. So the course goes like this. The part 1 we're just moving out of. This Monday we're going to finish up Thoreau's Waldo. And this needs a space. And some of his poetry. So this is the first time we'll be reading his poetry as a group. Then we move into part 2 with 2 very different poets, moving kind of outside the American Transcendentalist movement. We're turning our backs on Emerson and Thoreau, and we're looking at Whitman and Dickinson. And we're spending 2 weeks on Walt Whitman's poetry and his poetics. And then 2 weeks on the poetry of Emily Dickinson. And I've actually invited the group to read beyond that and to actually just read as much as you can. And then we also have these other voices of the American Renaissance, Frederick Douglass, and we'll be reading his oration titled What to the Slave is the 4th of July, an excellent example of the American Jeremiad in prose. And then we're going to be reading some Edgar Allan Poe poetry. And we're going to conclude with Herman Melville's poetry. So, if you want to join, the link is in the description below. I'll be posting content here on YouTube here and there throughout the year, so that's fine if now's not the right time. But we meet Monday nights for this, in addition to other one-off events that I do on Patreon, including guest lectures. We just heard from a professor who spent some time at the Folger Library reading John Milton's copy of Shakespeare. So we heard from him, and that's the sort of thing that you can expect on Patreon. It's $10 a month for this, and that's a pretty good deal, actually, because you're getting like 4 meetings a month for $2.50. In a way, you're supporting my outreach in making the study of literature more accessible to readers outside the university. So if that interests you, please do sign up. Now on to Emerson. Thanks for watching. So I want to give some context, just a little bit of context, for Ralph Waldo Emerson's essay, Nature, published in 1836, and a little bit of context for Thoreau's essay, Walking, sometimes called The Wild, which was put into print in 1862 after his death. Ralph Waldo Emerson's essay, Nature, is the foundational work of American Transcendentalism. It's the work that started this philosophical, literary movement that emphasizes, among other things, the goodness of people, the goodness of nature, and this is what started it. The Transcendentalist movement emerged around the 1830s. It was a cultural movement, a philosophical movement. It underscored the value of self-reliance, of individual intuition, the importance of trusting yourself, and it's really rooted in this small town of Concord in New England. And this was, I'm gesturing toward Concord, which is west of me right here. It's a response to, among other things, this over-rationalistic religious way of thinking. In some ways, it's a response against the rationalistic Unitarian movements and the over-doctrinal Christian Orthodox traditions that were all across New England and America at this time, but is also against this Enlightenment, this rigid rationalist thought of the Enlightenment movement. You want to see everything taxonomized, dissected, looked at empirically. And of course, this is a great and just generalization of the Enlightenment, but it's generally true. And there are some exceptions, and you can find them. But this is a response against that. I just want to show you this first paragraph. This is the first paragraph of Emerson's Nature. And look at how he begins. Our age is retrospective. Look at this simple sentence. For Emerson, that's a big deal, as you probably know by the time you got to the end of this. It's very emphatic. It's very unique that he would do this. And it's the topic sentence. Our age is retrospective. And see what he does. He brings us into it with that plural pronoun. Ours, yours and mine, is retrospective. Retro coming from the Latin backward. Specere meaning to look. So he's saying it's a complaint. He's saying we are backwards. Our age is backwards. It looks backwards. And so you notice we're immediately in what mode? The Jeremiad. Just as Michael Wigglesworth was using the Jeremiad in his very unique way with that story of the Day of Doom, and that we need to reform society. Emerson, too, who was a preacher, he left the ministry before he wrote this essay, but he spent a lot of time in the pulpit. He also is preaching, and he's also tapping into that Puritan, distinctly American mode of the Jeremiad. Our age is retrospective. That's our age. Same topic sentence, builds the sepulchres of the fathers, the tombs, the structures on the tombs. It writes biographies, histories, and criticism. Notice how the sentences are getting a bit longer, but the structure is still the same. Subject, verb, direct object. In this case, they build the sepulchres. It writes biographies, histories, and criticisms. And how longer? The foregoing generations beheld God and nature face to face. We through their eyes. And notice the ellipsis, the omission of the main verb that helps us complete the sense of this independent clause. We see or beheld. And what we have to do is we have to go back to see, to find the verb from the original independent clause, and it's beheld. Because the foregoing generations previously behold God face to face, we secondarily, vicariously through their eyes. And then this amazing question, why should not we also enjoy an original relation to the universe? Not second or third hand, but an original relation. And this is the question that he's asking throughout the entire essay. And then notice the repetition again. You see how these sentences accumulated in length, so the questions, putting it to us. Why should we, here we are included once again, why should not we have a poetry and a philosophy of insight and not of tradition, and a religion by revelation to us and not the history of theirs? Notice the balance of antithesis there. It's a unique balance of opposites. A religion by revelation versus a history of their religion by revelation. We aren't comfortable with having the experiences ourselves. We don't want to do the wrong thing, so we have to look to the authorities of the past. And then we have this deliciously syntactically complex sentence here in which actually the main subject and verb are embosomed in this sentence, embosomed for a season in nature, whose floods of life stream around and through us and invite us by the powers they supply to action proportioned to nature. Why should we grope among the dry bones of the past? Grope like as though a blind person groping in the dark among the bones. Why this metaphor? It's very subtle because it's located, it's connected to blindness, but it's not there. Blindness isn't really mentioned. It connects back to our blindness in the present age because we do not behold God face to face. We grope among the dry bones. And someone in the comments mentions this beautiful thing from Whitman. Stop this day and night with me, and you shall possess the origin of all poems. And whereas it, you shall no longer take things at second or third hand. Yeah, Calvin, exactly. Whitman was very much inspired by this in many of Emerson's essays. Do not grope among the dry bones or put the living generation into masquerade out of its faded wardrobe. The sun shines today also. Notice the beautiful variation of sentence structure here. A good writer will vary the sentence length and not just haphazardly. They will front load it with the idea for emphasis. They will accumulate meaning by the gradual lengthening of lines. They will stretch it out, and then they'll bring it home with this. The sun shines today also. And that's what Emerson's doing. He's an excellent prose writer. There is more wool and flax in the fields. Wool and flax? He's drawing on this metaphor, the faded wardrobe. You make clothes out of wool and flax. So he's saying, don't go to the faded wardrobe. Make your own. Make your own. There are new lands, new men, new thoughts, period. What's interesting here is that he omits the conjunction and, which usually would come to signal that we're coming to the end of the list. This is called ascendanton, when a conjunction is omitted. And the effect is to give an abrupt ending. It's a list, new lands, new men, new thoughts, period. Oh, we weren't expecting that. In our minds, we're still waiting for more because there is more. And then notice what he does. The exact opposite of ascendanton is polyscendanton. Many conjunctions are more than necessary. Let us demand our own works and laws and worship. And there's the polyscendanton there. And what's the effect of the polyscendanton right after the ascendanton? It is to land this beautiful paragraph to anticipate the ending and to give it a sense of finality and conclusion. He's an excellent prose. This is such a beautiful essay. You should, as like a devotional practice, you should read this at least once a year. It's just, it's a wonderful, beautiful piece of art, carefully crafted, and it's just wonderful.